Hang on one second, guys. We're having some technical issues. Hold on. It's done that thing again. There we go, everyone. How are you? It's good to see you, and it's good to be seen by you. The person appearing before you in front 242 vision is nobody other than me, Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver, coming to you live, loud and clear on a Wednesday evening. And I hope you're having a good one wherever you are. Whatever one you're having, I hope it's really good. Welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to the show. I seem to have summoned the devil of technical issues today. I had a lot of fun over on Lost Lore Scholar Jack's live stream this afternoon. Didn't really have a lot of time, but the time I got to spend with him, Cerulean Rex, Brass Dragon, Richard Witters was there. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So anyway, welcome to the show. Yeah, the late 90s handy cam or the 2020 DSLR, as the case may be. But anyhow, well, guys, welcome to the show. And if you're wondering what we do, if you wonder what we do here on the show, well, let me ask you something. Why don't you just click the subscribe button and find out? It's a perfectly cromulent thing to do. Click the subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications to find out about all of our wonderful live streams. And they're wonderful, even if they have technical problems. Some might argue they're more wonderful. Some might argue that they are indeed more wonderful. And oh my gosh, sorry about that. That was not what that was supposed to do. I apologize. But anyway, so we have a lot of fun here on the show. 5 nights a week of live streaming about TTRPG matters. And I do little interstitial videos during the week when we get some good TTRPG news, or I just want to share something fun with you guys. Like, for example, dropped a video, was it yesterday? About the community episode Advanced Dungeons and Dragons coming back. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm pretty excited about that. We have guests on. We've got guests who are going to be here tomorrow night, and give me just a second to pull up my notes, and I will tell you about our wonderful guests. And I mentioned this before, but while that's coming up, I want to remind you guys that the Great Underground Online Gaming Convention, the GWOC, is in the slot, and we have got a fantastic group of folks lined up for our panels. We have author Alyssa Hazel. We have author Sky Hernstrom. We have artist Richard Witters. We've got artist Tracy Lesh, and we have creator Matt Finch. And I may have one or two more, possibly. I'll let you guys know. But I am hyped and excited. I'm hype-cited about it. And what is the GWOC other than the Great Underground Online Gaming Convention? The GWOC is a 100% free gaming con that you can enjoy from the comfort of the bus on the way to work, The train on the way home. The plane because you've got to fly to Sheboygan this weekend. The car because your wife offered to drive for a little bit. The couch because, hey, it's my weekend to watch something on TV. However you want to interact with it over the internet, you can do it. The point is, if you don't have to leave your house, don't leave your house. Zero cost for travel, zero cost for a hotel room, and zero cost to get in. The only thing I ask that you do is have fun. And yet we've even got merch. If you want t-shirts, if you want glasses, coffee mugs, whatever, you can do that. We have merch. We have got some awesome merch. Gonzalo Lira, thank you very much. He's buying ads in the live stream, folks. That's what he's doing. Guac event, Tall Tales of the Wee Folk, Saturday, May 24th, 8 p.m. Eastern. Play as a woodland fairy character in the Beckme Basic. Gosh, that sounds fun. And I hope I'm not running anything opposite that. I may want to get in on that action too. How do I do this? You ask me. Be patient. And I will tell you. Our convention is it's right here. It's right here on the internet, and it's on Discord, and I'm excited about it. So let me just pull up the event invite, and I just got to scroll up to it. Where is it? But anyway, we have a bot over there. Doomsword Deathmaster and I did a live stream on how to use the bot last week. It's very cool. I quite like it. So the bot will allow us to schedule things. I'm not seeing the link here. Looking. But the create bot is very, 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 very easy to use. And so you can go back, you can watch that live stream. It's from last Thursday, I think. Doomsword and I did it, and it'll teach you all about how to use the sign up bot to sign up for games and to sign up to run games. The only thing is, if you want to be a game master, let me know so I can give you the game master role over there. Because that's kind of an important sort of thing. And I'm looking here. I think I'm gonna have to copy. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to go over and copy that. So let me do this. And let me do this. So invite people, copy. And guess what? The invite is now different. It did not permanence like it should have been. But anyway, there it is. It's on the screen in the chat. You can go and you can sign up. And you can play. And I hope you will. I hope you will. But to recent stuff, it's a busy week. I have a very, very busy week in front of me. I have a guest tomorrow night. I have Demokritos from Black Lantern. They are a game dev company out of Greece. The Greek Delver's Dungeon connection remains strong. They will be here tomorrow night talking about their upcoming TTRPG that they've got. Now, they did build it around 5e, but the description, the way they talked to me about it, was that it is very gritty and very dark. So don't expect a bunch of death saves. It's called Immortals, Hubris, and Glory. They've got a Kickstarter. I'm not going to give a bunch away, but if you ever wanted a dark Greek myths RPG, even if you're gonna like say I'm gonna bolt this into AD&D or OD&D or BECME, they've got you set up. You're gonna like it. I think you're gonna like it. And Dimitrokos, I murdered his name. Demokritos is going to be here tomorrow talking about this. I tried to get Risa on the show as well, but I think she's going to be sitting out in the audience again. But she is working for a company now that also has a TTRPG Kickstarter. I will get Risa on the show. We will talk to Miss Risa about that. So I'm excited about that. So that is happening tomorrow night. David Brown asking an important question. I'm gonna tag that. Flaming Saganaki D&D. I love it. At my age, I should probably have a little bit more Spanakopita, but Saganaki will work also. So I will come back to your question, David Brown. That is a good question. So anyway, so that's tomorrow night. Friday night, of course, we're playing some Gamma World. We're going to have a lot of fun. Saturday, I have 2 live streams I'm doing on Saturday. Saturday, over at the brand new Nerd Council of Doom YouTube channel. You guys should all go subscribe to it. Myself, Dungeon Minister, and Yang Enzao will be bringing the Nerdly monthly news to you guys. I'm hyped. I'm excited. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. We've got our own new place, and we are trying to at least hit that golden 500 sub count. So if you could check us out over there on YouTube, if you haven't subscribed, please, 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 please go subscribe to us on YouTube. Let's see here. I'm just going to hop over there real quick, and I know I should have this URL, but so we where is it? All right, well, I promise I will come back with the Nerd Council of Doom link for you guys. Fear not. Fear not. But I'm doing that from 3 to 4. And then at 5 o'clock, Alyssa Hazel is in the house. That's right. Alyssa Hazel will be on the show. I'm excited about that. And then Sunday evening, I will be on Ryan David / Nerd Cognito's show, Inappropriate Characters. I have been asked to co-host Inappropriate Characters, so I'm excited about that too. So a lot of stuff going on. Campaigns and Conquests, I am here to hear the gold got XP stuff. I admit this assumption. My Magic 8 Ball is wrong, right? I'm not sure where you're going at there, but anyway, Kevin from the internet. Hello. How much cocaine was involved in the creation of Spelljammer? Yes. Spanakopita, the wonderful Greek holiday from Venture Brothers. Yes. So David Brown is asking about scheduling. Are the slots 8 to 12? We are basically working on a 4-hour schedule system, and we are going to start at noon on the first day of the con. So 12 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to midnight. If you are in another country where you're out of the US time zone range and you want to run games that would fall like in the deep dark post midnight period, I'm a-okay with that. It will be a truly international convention if we do that. So, so there you go. There you go. Do all Floridians say schedule like British people? No, I can say schedule just as the same as anyone else. I just say it because I want it to sound smart. But anyhow, so I hope that answers your question, David Brown. Now, as to what we're deep diving tonight, let me tell you a little bit about what we do here on the show when I'm not just promoting and shouting and running games and dropping science and that. So actually, I am going to be dropping science and knowledge. But when I'm not going into all those things, I like to look at classic TTRPGs. And I saw something in my voice cracked there. Hey Janie, you want to go to the dance? And this was something I really wanted to talk about this. I thought this was pretty important. Because it may change the way you do some things in AD&D. And this is, we're getting into the meat here. All right. This is like pot roast, vegetables, glass of milk, dinner roll, and, cherry tomatoes and lettuce with some Thousand Island dressing. This is basic, staple meat and potatoes AD&D stuff, which is what we talk about. Would I rather use a Spelljammer spaceship or a Dwarven battlecruiser powered by runic magic for a D&D campaign? Neither. I would rather be in an apparatus of Qualish scuttling up the side. I could go Solomon Grundy next. Solomon Grundy want pants too. If you get the reference, you get the reference. So let's go ahead and get into this deep dive stuff. And let's talk a little bit about AD&D. We're gonna deep dive into the melee system of AD&D. Now, not roll a d20 to see if you hit. Everybody knows that. And I want to take an aside here real quick. A lot of people I find say that AD&D would work better or D&D would work better if armor reduced damage. The good news is it does. All right, this is the first half of the deep dive. It doesn't really relate to the second half. An AD&D round is a minute long. There is not just one single blow in that minute, unless you're firing an arrow. Or unless you're using a missile weapon, let me say. AD&D combat is a swirling rain of blows. It is not a single sword thrust, a single dagger swipe, a single chomp with an axe, or blow with a hammer, mace, flail, Morningstar, whatever. It is a series of feints and thrusts over the course of 60 seconds. Abstracted in that combat, a foeman may strike you a half dozen times with a longsword. Maybe that represents the 6 points of damage you took. Or alternately, he may strike you a half dozen times, but I only rolled a 14 and I needed a 16 to hit you. Does that mean you're untouched? No, it simply means your armor turned the weapon. It can mean the armor turned the weapon. AD&D and possibly other forms of D&D, basic, original, has an exceptionally abstract combat system. It does not deal in hit locations, sort of. swords of sharpness and unarmored heads aside. AD&D combat is meant to be fast, lean, and go quickly. It is fast off the starting line. It is streamlined, and it moves very rapidly. You cannot, using Rollmaster as a basis, have the hypothetical fight between 4-player characters and a dozen kobolds in a reasonable amount of time. You can't. What are they putting in defense? What are they putting in offense? What are you putting in offense? What are you putting in defense? Were there critical successes? Were there critical failures? Were the critical failures cascading failures? Were the critical successes exploding successes? AD&D resolves that combat in the space of a few minutes. Depending on the level of the characters, if the 4 characters I mentioned are 4 fighters of, say, 4th level, that combat's going to end almost in real time. Keep Rollmaster's name out of my mouth. Gonzalo, very, very passionate about his Rollmaster. Okay, so I wish I could find it. Once upon a time, when I was at the hospital visiting my dad, I stepped into the bathroom in his hospital room, and I'm not kidding you. It was not written there. It was emblazoned. It was the logo. The toilet paper dispenser in his bathroom was called Rollmaster, and I could not think of a more appropriate sign from the gods. At any rate, so it's abstracted. Your armor doesn't just stop you from getting hit. It might be absorbing damage that would otherwise have hit you, because hit points, guess what, are also abstracted. Maybe that giant's club slammed into you, and yet your shield was unshivered. Your arm was unbowed. You brought up your tower shield, the club slammed down, you moved it out of the way, and thrust with your sword, grinning like a madman. That's great, 33K7. I love it. So when people say, I want armor that reduces damage in D&D, it already does. It's just abstracted. So the game is fun to play, and we can get back to skullduggery. So I just feel like that's been overlooked. And the next time somebody says, hey, I want this in AD&D, or AD&D would be better with it, just say, yeah, well, good news, it already is. There you go. Rollmaster. I didn't lie. Rollmaster. That one's for you, Gonzalo Lira. All right. But now Can I take back a super chat? No, you can't. Abstraction is ignoring it, not including it. I don't agree with you. I heartily don't agree with you. There's things that make games go. Let me tell you something. Once upon a time, when Jordan Wiseman was designing the game that would become BattleTech, they had rules for guided missiles. They had rules for electronic warfare. They had all the fancy stuff you would think would be part of the battlefield, even in the relative road warrior future of BattleTech. There's still a lot of stuff. And you know what they found? It grinds the game to a halt. It grinds the game to a halt. So the fluff text talks about the targeting systems, the heads-up displays, the electronic warfare suites, how even the dumb LRMs of the 30-20 period can like weave between trees and dart over obstacles and so on and etc. Warhammer 40K does the same thing. Every bullet out of a Space Marines bolt thrower has a guidance chip in it. It's a 40 millimeter gyrojet round that maneuvers around things. But they don't get down into the weeds because it would make the game unplayable. Some games do that, and guess what? They're kind of unplayable. I love the greebly stuff in Mechton's Mechton 2 plus MTS. I love it. Way back in the summer of 1991, a friend of mine and I sat down. It was his one day. He was so pissed at me. It was his one day off in 2 weeks. He worked at Disney as a line cook. And I hyped up Mechton 2 plus MTS. And he was so down to play it. We spent part of the day building some basic battle mechs from BattleTech in MTS. And the rest of the day having a 1v1 fight, dicking around with the subsystems. And I'd read the rules. This wasn't us learning how to play the rules. I'd read the rules. No, I don't think that's true, Campaigns and Conquest. I don't think that's true at all. Trust me, there are ample unplayable games out there. It has nothing to do with like or dislike. I like MTS. What did I just say? I like MTS. It's not wieldy. Sticking something that has never been part of D&D or AD&D onto it and slowing it down doesn't work. And another friend who loved SFB. Let's go back to the BattleTech example. The best unplayable game is Realm of Yolmi, and God willing, I'll get a copy before I die. Anyway, let's go back. I had a friend who loved Starfleet Battles, adored Starfleet Battles, and insisted that the Starfleet Battles impulse system was perfect for BattleTech. If we use the impulse move system and the impulse weapon firing system, it would be so much better. It wrecked it. None of us wanted to play it like that. I tried it once. It made a fast-paced, simple beer and pretzels tactical war game a mess and unplayable. And it's fine for SFB. SFB is a different game. Games that have weapons that absorb or armor that absorb damage are different games, and they're fine. AD&D doesn't have a crit system. It doesn't. And no, I don't use good hits and bad misses. But Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay does. It has a rather extensive crit system. So does Rolemaster. And I like it when I play those games for those things to come up. It's like, I stab the goblin and knock him down in a puddle. Well, he'll die of tetanus in a few rounds. I like those. I like those things in those games. It alters the feel. No crits in AD&D, no ablative armor in D&D. It's abstracted. The game is meant to be fast-paced. If we were using armor-absorbing damage, last night's battle to force entry into the Slaver Stockade, guys, we'd still be resolving round 1. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about this. I'm not going to spend any more CPU power on this. I want to talk about something that I feel like I have done wrong in the past. I will admit to you guys, I feel like I've done this wrong in the past. And I want to talk about, it's such a simple thing too. It's a very simple thing. So let's take a look at this. If you want to follow along, this is page 66 of the 1E AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide. So here we are. Now, I just want to go up to the top of the section. This is in the combat round. Further actions. Further actions. Close to striking range. Now, I think personally, a lot of people can get confused about this, and Lord knows until I really looked at this. Oh, Daniel Rowan, that's easy. It's Chihuahua. I know that because Les Nessman taught me how to say it. Monster lizard ravages East Coast. Close to striking range. This merely indicates that the party concerned is moving at base speed to engage the opponent. The base speed is inches, indicating tens of feet in the dungeon or similar setting indoors, tens of yards outdoors. All normal activity and bonuses are permitted when doing so. I want you guys to hone in on that. All normal activity and bonuses are permitted when doing so. Ironcaster is surprised that Well, the AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide is like the city of Greyhawk itself. Byzantinian, labyrinthine, winding streets. You can wander up and down all day. You can find yourself in a blind alley or a broad avenue, a breezy thoroughfare, or a dangerous side street. But let's consider that. All normal activity and bonuses are permitted when doing so. This action is typically taken when the opponent is over 1 inch, that's 10 feet underground, 10 yards above ground, distant, but not a long distance away. I would say more than your movement rating would count for a long distance. So if the party's movement is base of 9, they're only going to go as fast as the slowest party member, and that's a base of 9. If it's more than 9 inches, 90 feet, 90 yards, then it's a long way away. It does not mean mandatory. No, it does not. The action is typically taken when the opponent is over 1 inch distant but not a long distance away. Play goes to the next round after this, as melee is not possible. Now, this is the thing. This is where the human eyes tend to skip over things. And let's look at this. Although other activity can, of course, take place, such as that detailed above, all normal activity and bonuses are permitted when so doing. Melee is the sole exception when moving more than 10 inches. That's it. Can I move 6 inches and shoot my bow? Can I move 7 inches and use my ring of shooting stars? Can I move 3 inches and cast fireball? Can I move 1 inch and imbibe a potion of extra healing or super heroism? Can I stand still and start to direct the sphere of annihilation? The answer to all of those is yes. The only thing that isn't permitted post 10-inch move, or a 10-foot or 10-yard move, is melee. Everything else is, do you want to position yourself and fire your bow? Go right ahead. Do you want to move to a more opportune spot to catch more of your foes in a lightning bolt? Feel free. You want to relocate yourself to cast web? Do so. It is all laid down right there. That one paragraph should clarify your game. +1 rulers. I like that. Have a great night, Rob Turner. Sorry I missed your departure. It's just that simple. And it hit me like a bolt out of the blue. So keep that in mind. When your party is laying these plans, don't just say, oh, no, if you're moving more than 10 feet, you can't. Consider somebody throwing a javelin. They may run 30 or 40 feet just to get the oomph behind it, to throw it at its maximum range, or a spear. It's just melee is the sole restriction. And that caught me by surprise because it had been years since I had read through this section. I thought I was doing it right, but I wasn't. Now, here's something interesting, and it's regarding charging. It's regarding charging. Now, movement rates indoors and out of doors are noted. Now, here's something that I thought was interesting that came up. There are a lot of people screaming at Rob Kuntz and other people about, you're not playing D&D right if you're not playing it as a war game. You're not playing D&D right if you're not using chainmail. The only mass combat system mentioned in AD&D is swords and spells. It's a planted chainmail. Chainmail is Nikoturnia at this point. Oh, you're absolutely right, Damien. A sling bullet. Um, but movement bonus for charging in normal outdoor settings is 33 and a third percent of base movement speed for bipedal creatures, 50% for quadrupeds. Indoors, it's simply double base speed. Good call, north of the Rockies. I remember when they were escaping from the Thieves Guild, and I think it was Mouser was noting that the thieves were using clay shot, which I guess was more deadly or something. And he was like, "Yeah, they're not interested in taking prisoners tonight." I couldn't figure out if it was supposed to be wet clay, which I wouldn't think it would be, or like probably baked balls of clay, if I'm guessing right. That is correct, Dying Breed. Outdoor movement is in yards. It is in yards. So 1 inch out of doors is 10 yards, not 10 feet. Yeah, I mean, you know, hey, dwarf, could you take your warhammer and strike the wall a few times? Thanks. And, then you pick up a few sharp stones. Boom, you've got sling ammo. So, um, so there's the movement rate. Um, you of course lose a little bit of armor protection. There's no dexterity bonus allowed for charging creatures. Creatures with no dexterity bonus become one armor class lower, easier to hit. There's no penalty to AC 10 creatures for charging. But this is something else I found that was interesting, because let's look over here. Melee at end of charge. Initiative is not checked at the end of charge movement. The opponent with the longer weapon reach attacks first. I charge you with dagger. You've got spear. I get charged first. And this is important. This is important because we come to the next section on charges. Set weapons against possible opponent charge. Remember, longer weapon wins initiative, which means they go first, which means their action can be to set weapon against charge. And if you get hit, if I charge you with my dagger, you see me coming, you lift up your ox tongue, I'm going to take 2d6 damage because I'm running ass over tea kettle right into your spear. And if you hit, I take that full on in the torso. So it comes down to a matter, if you're like, well, they didn't get their spears set. No, 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 no. Longer weapon, higher initiative. Why would you ever use a slower, longer, less wieldy weapon? Here is your answer. If you are in the field or even just in large caverns, you will get your weapons set against a charge. So these two sections, when I went back and I reread them today, were real eye-openers. So keep that in mind. So the next time you all DM AD&D arm some goblins, will say, exactly, exactly. Even javelins are longer than most swords. Possible exception of a two-handed sword. Suddenly those runty goblins that the bloodthirsty party is cool to go in and slay, they might not be so cool against it with the idea of getting 2d6 damage from a lowly goblin or kobold. Good evening, great old ones. They are absolutely legitimate in terms of use. Absolutely, unquestionably. Now, one thing I want to point out, one thing I do want to point out about spellcasting, I was talking about spellcasters moving to a place and casting a spell. You cannot, and this is covered, you cannot split move and fire spells. You can't. And this is where spell casting time becomes a factor. Okay. Movement is generally delineated in what you can do in a round. Thus, a segment is 1/10 of your movement. In a segment or 6 seconds of normal dungeon movement, you don't know what's ahead. Light's not great. You're trying not to make too much noise. If your base movement is 12, that's a foot and a fifth every segment, 1.2 feet. So I would deem that, going back to the example of can you set and move better to cast a spell, as long as you are concluding your movement with the spell and your movement doesn't take longer in the round. Like if you say, okay, I want to move all 12 inches that I can and then cast magic missile, you can't do that. Magic missile is a 1-segment spell. So if you said, I want to move 11 inches and then cast magic missile, that you can do because you have time at the end of the round to stop moving and then cast your spell. So spell casting time versus the amount of distance a magic user wants to move. Any movement, magic carpet, levitation, fly, feather fall. That is incumbent. Is every inch a segment? No. How far you can cover in a round is really incumbent on your encumbrance. Yeah, exactly, Dying Breed. Yeah, it does. It depends on your movement rate. Now, an inch is 10 feet. And can you cover 10 feet in a segment? A segment being 6 seconds. I don't think so. Not in AD&D combat rules. Yeah, encumbrance is going to be is going to be a big part of that, Mr. Doom Trader. Also true, Ishahay. Also very true. But if we go back to the question about 10 feet, how long does it take you to cover 10 feet? Well, it takes you a percentage of your movement rate. If your movement rate is 12, it takes you 1/12 of a round. And a round is a minute. So if we divide a minute here, let's see. If we divide a minute by your movement rate of 12, every segment you can, or rather, every 5 seconds you can cover 10 feet. Are you guys hearing me okay? I'm seeing bounce. I'm seeing volume bounce. And I'm seeing volume bounce on my meters. So if you guys aren't hearing me, that's fine. So what I would recommend... Okay. Excellent. Check this stuff out and experiment with it, guys. Play with it a little bit. Do some sample combats to get familiar with these rules. Use these rules regularly. And I think you're going to find you have a more nuanced game. I think you're going to find that your game, it's going to be different but better. It's going to be different but better, if you're not already. Again, your magic user has to think about movement economy now. Or maybe you just deem, look, any movement, once you declare you're going to cast a spell, you're rooted to the spot. Bill, I don't agree with you. Magic users can't move at all during the round when they're casting a spell. That's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. Run it like that. And I know there might be somebody out there who's like, yeah, I know, I've read The Addict and you've got it all wrong, Bill. That is a bonkers rule book. I mean, I absolutely appreciate the people who, the Daniel Prada and the others who put that thing together, but oh man. Yeah, Dune Trader, perfect example. Not every shield user uses a large shield. Does that mean you don't get full shield coverage? Well, yeah. You know, you might only get your AC versus this guy right here, not this guy right here and this guy right here. Dying Breed says, I did the math on movement rates. Base indoor movement only makes sense if you assume cautious exploration in a dungeon, not to overly complicate things, but it does fall short. Sure, that's fine. And dungeon movement, I always did assume was cautious movement in a dungeon. Even in combat, there may be pitfalls the monsters know about that the party doesn't. There's, a pile of rib cages on the floor. There's a broken, shattered chest. There's small boulders from an ancient rock fall. You're in a natural cave. There's a dry stream bed that's a foot or two deep. Break your leg like a twig. So you gotta move over that carefully. That is correct, Ishahay. Let's see. You know what? Let's go find it. Let's read it together. Oh, this is going to take us. Shield use. There we go. All right, here we go. This was actually easy to find. This is shield use, and this is on page 28. Page 28. So let's take a look at this. A shield is basically a barrier between its wielder and his or her opponent. It is used to catch blows or missiles. It can also be used offensively to strike or push an opponent. The shield can be used fully only to the left or front or of the right-handed individual. Attacks from the right flank or rear negate the benefits of a shield. You got an opponent over here. Your shield's on this arm. You got an opponent over here. Your armor class over here is 3, not 2. 2, 2, 3. Small shields, bucklers, and other small shields, which are basically held with one hand, are moved rapidly by the wielder, but they only cover a small area, so they are less effective by and large. Such shields are less cumbersome and fatiguing in employment, however, so no distinction is made between a small and a normal size shield in AD&D. Large shields, although a large shield such as a Norman kite shield or a large Viking round shield covers much more of the body. Employing one of these shields is far more difficult as they are cumbersome and fatiguing. Therefore, large shields are treated as but +1 to armor class rating without a shield. Optionally, you may allow them to add +2 to this armor rating with respect to small, non-war engine or giant hurled missiles. If you do so, however, be certain that you also keep careful track of encumbrance. So there's your shield use notes. There is your shield use notes. Okay, we got a question from 33K7. You wanted to ask me about TOEE. Was this any advice for making the scenario for higher level characters? Obviously, maybe some clever traps and more powerful enemies, but any other ideas? Where at in the temple? So you gotta understand, the temple can turn into a slaughterhouse really quick. There's a lot of bad juju in the temple. So you tell me what you're thinking of specifically. And one thing you really need to consider, remember, there are tribes of humanoids in the Temple of Elemental Evil. Now, 2 words for you, my friend. 2 words. 2 words. 2. That's 2. You want to go for 3? And the 2 words are tribal spellcasters. The party casts a bless, it gets dispelled. The party has torches, they get diminished to mere flickering embers. The party lays a hurtin' on the captain of the monster guard. Suddenly, he's not so hurt anymore. And on and so on and etc. Tribal spellcasters are a tremendous, tremendous force multiplier. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Tribal spellcasters are where it's at. Could I go to the PHB page 36? Sure. All right. But you got to tell me what we're looking for. No, you're not being demanding, Ishahay. We're here to learn. No, yes, Wolverine. So, God Loves, Man Kills. Chris Claremont, can't remember the artist. John Romita, maybe. Um, One of Reverend Stryker's shock troopers was being tortured. Uh, Wolverine put his fist under the fellow's chin, extended one claw that went that way, extended another claw that went that way, and he said, "That's one, that's two. Want to go for three?" With the implication that he'd get prefrontal lobotomy courtesy of Wolverine's claw. Um, and so in the movie The Breakfast Club, when the principal is threatening Johnny Bender with another weekend of detention, he's doing that. He's like, here, I'll put this back in a second. He's saying, I got you for a month. I got you for a month. You want to make it two? You want to make it two? I can do, like that. He's getting really threatening. All right. What are we looking at? What are you looking? Okay, so here we go. Armor types are given on the table. Note the inclusion of a shield raises armor class by a factor of 1, but this assumes the attack from the front where the character can interpose it between himself and a blow. A small shield can be counted against only 1 attack per melee round. Normal size can be 2, and a large shield up to 3. Attacks from the right flank and rear always negate the advantage of the shield. Again, covered in the Dungeon Master's Guide. I think it matches up. It matches up. So these two tables are notes, page 28 and page 36 of the player's handbook. They mesh perfectly. They mesh perfectly. Yeah, exactly. And the heavier it is and the more encumbrance it puts on you. Yeah, Dune Trader, that's not an AD&D thing at all. Let's see. Yes, Wandering Monsters, Dying Breed. Yeah, that Wandering Monsters is another one. Be checking. And let me tell you something. This is a little trick. Always check for wandering monsters at the end of combat. You just made a hell of a lot of noise, shouting verbal components to spells, throwing flasks of oil, hacking monsters down, battle cries demanding surrender, the sound of scimitars on shields, of arrows thudding into people, tables being kicked over for ad hoc cover from missile fire. All of those things raise a hell of a racket. Absolutely check for wandering monsters. There's a 1 in 6 chance, or if you're following a module that says 1 in 10, do 1 in 10. Or 1 in 12, do 1 in 12. Maybe the dungeon isn't set up to have wandering monsters at all. And then you've got two options. You can say, screw it, and use the Dungeon Master's Guide Wandering Monsters table. Or you can make one up based on the critters in the module, or you can just do what the module says and not have wandering monsters. You're not going to get wandering monsters in the Tomb of Horrors. I don't think. Yep. You just got to coordinate the silent spells with the other spellcasters in the party. I had that bite my group Monday night. They're in G2. And they wanted to cover the sounds of their combat. Or the sounds of their movement so they can move silently. And so they're like, I'm going to cast magic missile at the ice toads. I'm going to cast this spell. I'm going to levitate. I'm going to pray. I was like, all right, you all cast the spells and they're not effective because you can't speak. Because you were rolling with that mobile silence 15-foot radius. Not with that attitude. I understood that reference. Singing like Michael McDonald in the dungeon. Yes. Like Ride Like the Wind when you cast levitation. D&D is a lot of fun. I agree with you, Shahei. So, that ends my lecture, but do you guys have any questions for me? Before we call it an evening. Need to get back to playing again. All my friends had kids right after my kid got old enough to not take all of my dough. Well, you're coming to the guac, right? You're going to be at the guac. You're going to play there at least, I hope. If there are tribes and groups of monsters, when one of them finds Fred and Bob dead, you lousy, stinking fairies, you killed Fritz! I have not put any games on the grid yet, so I don't think it's me, Shahei. I will be putting games on the grid soon. You're quite welcome, 33K70. Ooh, what about Sad Wings of Destiny? Of course, I mean, I think some monsters, like, remember in, I can't remember if it's at the end of the Two Towers or the beginning of the last half of Return of the King, when Sam overhears the orcs talking about finding one of their fellows strung up in Shelob's webs and how they just left him hanging there. And they're like, well, we know better than to mess with this. He was alive, staring at them, hatefully kicking his feet. And they were like, nah, baby, that ain't us. And left him hanging there. Plus, in general, the orcs, I mean, granted, Sauron and Saruman had very, well, they had parallel but different goals. They had parallel but different goals. Hey, Don. Hey, Don McVitie. Well, you just have to play the whole album North of the Rockies. But yeah, the orcs, the orcs of the White Hand and the orcs of the Red Eye were very, very opposed to each other and fought each other. That was the middle return. Okay, all right, yeah. So I need to get back and reread The Lord of the Rings. I need to do that this year. I read it last. Actually, I started it in in like the fall of 2023 and finished it just over the line in is that right? Or was it 2022 and finished it in 2023? I don't remember. But it's been a year or two. It's time for me to reread The Lord of the Rings. Oh, that's cool, Ishay. Oh, he just likes hearing Dad read. Just likes Dad's voice. I think that's the well. No, yes. Okay, so there was at least one half orc nosing around Bree in the Sign of the Prancing Pony. Um, but the well, I think we can take a note, kind of retro fit this from AD&D. You know how there are like 10% of half orcs can pass as men? Maybe that's one of the types that was spying in Bree, hanging out with Bill Fernie and his lot. Um, but yeah, no, they're just bigger orcs that don't blench in daylight. Half orcs were the Uruk-hai. Like Saruman said, yeah, you know what? I think you look enough like a dude that I can just send you to this village. You know, here's 10 silver pennies. Don't spend them all in one place. Go, get out. Well, that's good, Daniel. You should. You absolutely should. So I hope you guys will take to advice the rules regarding movement and combat. Remember, anything except melee, firing missiles, firing or hurling missiles, reading scrolls, using magic items, and then adjust spell casting time versus distance they can move in the round. You know, you got to leave time to cast a spell. Or you may just say, look, no, you have to stay rooted to the spot. They can all move 120 feet and do their fun stuff, but not you. He did. I remember that with the term hobgoblin showing up. I'm glad that Tolkien used goblin in The Hobbit, because we get that awesome song from the Hobbit soundtrack, "Down Down to Goblin Town." It wouldn't have had the same pop if it had been "Down Down to Orc Town." Or maybe if they had done that, we wouldn't know the difference. And the interesting thing about Middle Earth, and you bring 33K7 mentioning that Saruman took a page out of Morgoth's playbook. Um, everyone, everyone, and I include Sauron in this, everyone is in decline in The Lord of the Rings. It is literally the end of elder days. Things have faded and become diminished. And even Sauron's not attempting to make new magic items in Mount Doom. He just wants the One Ring back. Maybe he thinks he can turn things back. But it is very much a shadows of better days. Call it a post-apocalypse setting if you want. When the ring goes south, when the party leaves Kahadras and instead journeys across the interior of the Misty Mountains to go to the Holland Gate, I think one of the hobbits asks about what is this empty land? And the discussion told to him is, this is the land of Holland. It was once peopled and villaged, and now it's emptied out. Gondor, they let Minas Ithil become Minas Morgul. They let it fall. They're barely holding on to Osgiliath. And they comment when they're talking about the muster of Gondor that, once we could have, we could have put 20,000s in the field, and now, barely a third of that. And when Pippin is walking through the streets, he passes empty, abandoned houses just all over the place in Minas Tirith. Everything is diminished. Everything is fading. It is a post-apocalypse setting. Everybody has payday loans in Lord of the Rings. The geometry between humans and ogres precludes half ogres. I have bad news for you, Savo. Gary actually did, for a fanzine, write up half ogres for AD&D. And as someone points out, it could be a male human with an ogre girlfriend. And then it all becomes England, the true end, yes. Yeah, Lindor near the Blue Mountains. I think the only place that saw a sudden flash and spurt of growth and renewal between the cleansing of Erebor and just prior to the final fall of Barad-dûr was Dale. They became numerous. They became fruitful. Savo's bringing the science to us tonight. Don't make that the subject of your next Feifel panel, I beg of you. By the way, if you guys don't follow Savo, he's at Feifel the Twit. Savo is at Feifel the Twit over on X. You should follow Feifel or Savo. Savo's Feifel the Twit art is amazing. Absolutely gorgeous stuff. Fun, funny. Sometimes it's breathtakingly beautiful. It's not always Feifel either. Got a couple of drow pictures in there that are just mwah, chef's kiss. Follow Savo on Twitter. But yeah, it's not till the final fall of everything that the world comes into renewal. The men of Gondor, when they sally for the final the battle at the Black Gate, they clean up and they cast down the Orcish monument that's been put on the head of the statue of the King of Gondor, and then they lift they lift the cast down stone head and replace it. They repair it. But I always loved reading this part when I was a kid because it had a crown of honeysuckle wrapped around it, little white honeysuckle flowers in a crown. And as they were heading south on what they thought was a one-way mission, just to try and buy Frodo some time, when they replaced that, they were careful not to rip the honeysuckle vines up, so it retained that white crown. I loved that. I loved that. So here's what's happening tomorrow on the show. And I've mentioned this before. 33K7 quoting some great Tolkien stuff there. Tomorrow on the show. We are going to have Demokritos from Black Lantern is going to be here. They're going to be talking about their upcoming TTRPG. It's like I said, it's sort of a dark Greek myths. It's built around 5e, but trust me, guys, I know as well as you do. You can flip some switches and make that work in AD&D. And they seem like really swell guys. So Demokritos will be here. I hope I'm saying that right. If you're listening and laughing your ass off, I apologize unreservedly. Friday is Gamma World. I'm excited about Gamma World. Do I think the Arkenstone is one of the Cimmerils? No, I do not. If the Arkenstone was one of the Cimmerils, the minute Bilbo found it, it would have filled the entire cavern with the radiance of day. It would literally been like Eru lifted the top of the Lonely Mountain off so that the sun at high noon could shine straight down into the treasure hall. But I do think the dwarves sought to replicate that. So that's happening Thursday. And then Friday, we're going to play some Gamma World. Saturday, we've got the Nerd Council of Doom. And then later in the evening, I will be streaming, and the lovely and talented Mrs. Alyssa Hazel will be here to talk about her books, tabletop gaming, her frightening and aggressive positivity that she insists others also adopt. And then Sunday, I will be over on Inappropriate Characters over on the Nerd Cognito Ryan David channel. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm absolutely looking forward to that. It's going to be a busy week. And then Monday, we just start the craziness all over. One more time, for those of you who have wished Zeus well, I thank you all so much for your well wishes on that. We have a follow-up visit on Friday afternoon at 3. I will be up at our emergency vet following up with them. I think he's doing well. I think he's doing a lot better. Thank you, Michael Dale. Everyone, I'm going to get out of here. But before I do, thank you to Gonzalo Lira for the super. Check out his game over at the Guac. Sign up, play. I bet it's going to be a lot of fun. If it's half as fun as his comments here in the threads, in the discussion threads that we have on the live videos, it's probably going to be a rollicking blast. But on your way out tonight, guys, you better be careful, and you better keep your eyes peeled, because I can't promise you won't get attacked by an owl bear. Peace. Good night. God bless. Love you all.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere, in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around, some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle, way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me